I'm super excited for our first guest. We have Amber Scriven here with us. And I know Amber because she is my amazing yoga teacher and sometimes acupuncturist. And I have often been known to call her my guru as well. And hopefully you guys will see why. But I'm going to let Amber tell a little bit more about her background and who she is, and then we'll jump into this.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Amber. I have been I've been a licensed acupuncturist in California for the last 10 years. And I've been in the holistic industry for about 15, 20 years now in various different ways. And I started teaching yoga 7 years ago. I've been practicing for about 15 years, but I started teaching 7 years ago. And what we do each week is we kind of build in themes and fold in themes that are relevant to what's going on in the world around us and where we're at in our bodies. And we try to take our bodies and move them with the theme. So it gets pretty interesting and things come up. Recently, I think for the last year and a half, we've had the theme of animals, spirit animals. And within each one, I also try to integrate all of the different backgrounds that I have in holistic medicine. So there's a lot of acupuncture, acupressure. If we're working with a theme that is bringing up certain emotions in a certain time surrounding the animal theme or whatever the theme is, then we will often work with that channel or meridian in acupuncture that pairs with that emotion also, and that balances it out for us so that we're not ignoring anything and we're not pushing anything away and suppressing anything. We're actually living through it and moving through it quite physically within the space of an hour and a half. So that's my background. I teach yoga classes every single day. I usually practice acupuncture 4 days a week. I see an average of anywhere from 60 to 120 patients in a week in a community clinic space. And the work means a lot to me. Recently we started traveling with that, so there's a lot of workshops and events happening, and then Costa Rica trips to paradise and all kinds of fun stuff that surrounds it. And it's really beautiful watching the tribe come together and really experience these different themes and witness them grow through it. It's really cool. I love it a lot.
It's so interesting to hear. I mean, I've experienced the themes and benefited from them so much. I don't know that I knew everything that goes into it with the meridians and like, it's enjoyable and you come out of it feeling better and feeling grounded, and somehow it just always fits in with whatever is going on. Even if it feels like it's something that's going on that's very personal to me, somehow whatever animal it is, whatever the theme is, seems to work. So it's just fascinating to hear like all the other science and everything that goes into it, because experiencing it is just kind of magical, but it's a lot of more work goes into it.
Yeah, it's a layer cake. I call it the layer cake. There's just layers and layers and layers. And every single week I have someone come up from our little tribe and community who walks up and is like, how did you know? How did you know? And it's usually this very personal thing that's going on for them, but it speaks to it. It's really incredible. And I definitely put a lot of thought and design into it, but I never know what's going on for other people. I just know that these things, they come to us in all different formats. And so it can feel like it's very personal to you, but really it's a theme that's coming up, and it will come up over and over again. And it's really nice that the whole community is thoroughly connected through it, because everybody has that exact experience at some point. And me too.
And you pick the animals randomly, right?
Yeah, so the best part about this is that on December 30th or 31st, whenever I can fit it in, I sit down with my spirit card deck, which I actually have right here. And I sit down with this deck, and I do a big circle of 13 cards. One is for the year, and then there's one for every single month. And I turn the cards over and I take pictures of it. And I try not to read about the animals and the themes until about the month before, and then I start planning all the work that we'll be doing together throughout the course of the month. But it's completely random, and it's always so shockingly relevant for myself and everybody who's doing it. It's so amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. I actually, those who work for me will recognize at the end of last year, we had a pretty challenging 2019, which I don't think is unique to my company or to us. It seemed like it was a challenging, little did we know what 2020 would bring. But 2019 was pretty challenging. And I sent an email out to our whole team at the end of the year. And I think a couple of months previously, we had the animal of the month had been the swan. And you had talked about how the swan just looks like it's floating so peacefully, but underneath the water, its legs are just paddling furiously. And I said that it just reminded me so much of our team, because things look, from the client's perspective, I think oftentimes it looks like everything's going well, things are going great, we're just making it all happen, but we're just paddling so furiously underneath, trying to keep it all going. And it was so like poetic and perfect to me. So my whole team had heard, we actually had Amber come in last week and do a Zoom yoga and storytelling session, but that was not the first time they had encountered.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful thing how it can touch people, and the stories especially of the animals each week are they really open up your heart a little bit, because so I pick stories each week. I tell a story that's relevant to the animal. Usually usually it's a kid's story, or like an old classic. We had some Rudyard Kipling things happening for a while, and definitely some yoga stories thrown in there. But they always center around the theme and the animal. And and so when it's a story like that, it's a teaching story, a story that's written for children, that's got a theme to it, it's got a moral or ethical code to it. And so you can kind of see more of the layer cake happening there. And when it's a teaching story like that, it actually can touch on many different things. Like you were saying, it was relevant for your team at work, and it was also very relevant for a lot of people at home in their family lives. Like you feel like like my neighbors are all perfect, but my family's a mess. Like we all feel that way.
Yeah, we do. So okay, so getting to the two things. So this month's animal is the elk. And I'll let you share some more, but what's really, we're only 1 week into April, but there's a mantra that's part of this month, and it is, I am grounded, I am rooted, I am thriving. That's right.
That's correct.
For the two things, I was hoping that you can share two things for those who are looking. I think we've heard it's getting a little bit trite now, like in these special times, in this crazy moment, in this new normal. But from your perspective, if you could share two things for people to help them with that feeling of being grounded, rooted, and thriving, because that's so important. Always important, but man, I think we all really need that.
Yeah, right now it's really, really important. And in the industry that I'm in, I spent the first few weeks that we were all kind of shuffling around the COVID-19 thing. I was working in the community clinic. And so we were kind of like, we had it in our faces, like the CDC was telling us to do certain things, and we had to do, everything was changing every single day. And it was a process. And one of the things that I saw happening a lot was people losing their routine, and this sense of this new normal. It wasn't even normal. Every day was different. Every day the facts were different. The routine was different. Can we go in? Can we go out? Can we go to the park? Can we not go to the park? And it was very anxiety inducing for many of us. And so finally everyone was told to stay inside and not leave their home, and the new normal really began. And in doing a lot of research for this month's theme, which is the elk, and the elk is about, again, random pick, but the elk is about family, support, stability. And if you look at the actual animal itself, it's on little hooves, on spindly legs, and it's walking around everywhere. And it doesn't look like it should be stable. It looks like it's on shaky ground, but it's this big animal with these big antlers, and it's holding its own. It's a very stable animal. It's classified as having this energy of parental energy. So it's got this big family focus to it, which I think we're all enveloped in right now, because we're focused on our family's health, staying home with our families, supporting our kids while they go through, you know, Zoom school classrooms and stuff like this. And so it's this big animal who's very stable, walking around on something that looks like it shouldn't be very stable. The other piece of the elk is about adaptability. And so adapting to the new norm, adapting to being able to walk around on this shaky ground and creating new skill sets, which I think we've all done very quickly. And
I made sourdough starter. That was a new one for me. Who knew?
So it speaks volumes. The elk was a random pick, but it is very, very, very perfect. And one of the things that came out of me looking at the elk was this mantra of I am grounded, I am rooted, and I am thriving. And when you break this down, you look at this new normal and you think about the anxiety that was being picked up by people and the grief that people started to voice, that they were feeling a loss of their sense of routine, of their morning coffee in a to-go mug instead of a coffee mug, or dressing up for work, right? Like these strange things that people suddenly started going to the grocery store. And so one of the things that I have found that keeps being mirrored back at me through the mantra, through the elk, and through my own personal experience through going through this too, is creating a sense of routine. So if we're going to adapt, if we're going to be the elk and we're going to adapt to all these things being thrown at us in this unstable ground, one of the things that's really, really important, I believe, is creating a sense of routine. I had someone tell me that they read in an article. Oh, it was my mom. She told me she read in this article about this couple who had decided that they were grieving the sense of routine that they usually have. They didn't have kids, but they were grieving it so much, and it was starting to affect their marriage. Like they were bickering within their shelter in place. And so what they decided to do was get up every morning with the alarm, have breakfast, make coffee in to-go mugs, get dressed for work, leave the house independently of each other at their normal time, walk around the block like that was their commute separately, and then they walked back in the house, but they wouldn't talk to each other. That was their work day. And so they created this sense of routine. And then at the end of the day, they'd do the same thing. They'd leave work and they'd walk around the block in the opposite direction, and they'd arrive home and be like, hi, honey, and get dressed in their pajamas again. But what it does is it gives us this sense of feeling rooted and grounded in something. We're creatures of habits. Human beings just love routines. Even our digestive tracts work from routine. So this is my first of the two things, is find a sense of routine, create that stability and that support system for yourself and your family. I know it's helped me so much. And I have my, I get dressed and I actually have my office hours now, my teaching hours, and it feels miles better. So that's my first piece of advice for the two things. The second thing that I'm finding very helpful is, and this is going to sound very cliche, but it's pausing.
Okay.
Pausing. So part of being grounded and rooted is allowing yourself to not get swept away with the anxiety itself, and to kind of stop being up in the clouds and to really firmly plant on the ground. So one of the things that I was witnessing was I was teaching these Zoom yoga classes, which were beyond me. I mean, I'd never used Zoom before all of this happened, just like many of us. Yeah. And I was like, how do I turn the sound on? How do I make it louder? How do I get the video to work? How do I log everybody in? And I was so swept up in that by the time I got down to my mat and sat down with the group and just took a breath, I was actually sinking into my mat very heavily and feeling extremely grounded and rooted. And it helped me kind of get through the next hour of technical problems. So later on, when everyone's hustling and bustling around this whole shelter in place thing, and we're all freaking out about stuff, and people were saying, oh, just, one of the calming things, meditate. And I would say, oh, I'm going to meditate. Oh, and I wouldn't be able to do it. My mind would be racing. And I found that one of the things that was helping me to meditate was to just literally pause everything and do it in a group setting. Like everyone in the house, pause. Because you can have that moment for yourself where you pause, but if there's hustle and bustle around you and your brain is still ticking, it's really hard to turn everything off. I mean, if you could do it, do it. But I think if you're not used to meditating and you're not used to just pausing, that having everyone in the whole house just stop, drop, and sit, this is going to create that sense of grounding and rooting. And once you've got that sense of ground and root, you're just going to thrive. Even if there's anxiety, you'll have tools.
I think it's so interesting to listen to it, because I've been noticing, like, there's so much that's missing now, right? Like our lives in a way have gotten so simplified and just closed in, but I'm finding that I'm having these moments where it's almost like panic attack, like my heart's palpitating and I'm just like vibrating at this frequency. And I've been, thanks to your Zoom yoga, which you're now very good at. But I've been trying to do that pretty much every morning, and it's been giving me that that forced moment to pause. And since I started that, it's been so helpful. And what's been fascinating to me, I mean, I always love yoga class, but sometimes it feels really long and it's hard, and like, you can like peek at your watch and like, you get to like, you're like, oh God, thank God, bridge pose. It's almost over. Like,
On the floor.
it can, like, feel long, and I'm not experiencing that at all right now. I think everything's just so overwhelming that it's almost like, for me at least, there's something about the speed of my brain and the flow of the yoga, and the need for, I'm not wording this very well, but the need for that pause is making time work in a different way. I think because it's so needed.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think being able to just stop is a really big deal. And it's really hard for many of us to stop just independently by ourselves and to just drop in, to use another phrase. But if it's in a group setting like that, and I think a lot of people also are feeling, at least in the beginning of this, we're feeling very disconnected. And what I'm witnessing happening is people being more connected now. And I think I said this the other day to our group, when someone says, how are you? They're not just saying, hey, how are you? They're saying, no, how are you? Do you need anything? Can I give you anything? Can I do anything? Do you need to tell me anything? There's a real sense of connectedness, even though we can't reach out and touch each other and be in the same room with each other. So in that instance, when you take the pause as a group, it becomes this very immense and powerful thing, even if you're not in the same room as these other humans.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
It's been awesome. Okay, so this was great. So we're gonna share some links for everyone who's watching this. So tell us all where we can find you.
So the easiest place to find me is on my website, amberscrivenyoga.com, or on Instagram, ambersyogaflow.com. And then from there, there's all kinds of other places you can find me. But if you go to one of those two places, you'll be able to figure out exactly where to take class, where to join in, how to be a part of the tribe and community. We want you all. We want all of you in here. And how to get on board with these like amazing spirit animals and the stories, and just, come and witness and share.
Awesome. Okay, well, we will share that out. And thank you so much for sharing your two things. It's been great having you.
Thanks for having me.